Gladys Ricart was shot to death in front of friends and family on her wedding day. She was shot in cold blood by her jealous and controlling ex-boyfriend Agustin Garcia. With a household of witnesses and a videotape of the murder, Agustin went straight to jail to await his trial. It should have been a clear-cut case, with Agustin receiving a life sentence, but his attorneys believed if they could ruin Gladys's reputation, they could convince the jury to reduce Agustin's sentence to 3 to 5 years. How did the defense almost turn the whole world against a woman who was shot to death on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life? And how can a person nearly get away with murder, especially after being caught on video? On Sunday, September 26, 1999, Gladys Ricart was at her home with family and friends preparing for her wedding. The groom, James Preston Jr., was waiting at the church for the arrival of his bride. Suddenly, her ex-boyfriend, Agustin Garcia, walked through her living room door. He shot Gladys 3 times with a .38 caliber revolver, killing her instantly. Agustin was taken to Bergen County Jail in Hackensack, New Jersey. After arriving at the jail, Agustin agreed to an interview with one of the investigators. During the interrogation, Agustin admitted he was on his way to Manhattan for a speaking engagement, but he decided to drive past Gladys's house first. Agustin also told the detectives that he drove by her home regularly to keep tabs on her. When he passed by Gladys's house, he was shocked by the white limos and all the people in dresses and tuxedos. He claimed he had no idea Gladys was getting married. After driving past the house multiple times in shock, Agustin decided to walk inside and see for himself what was going on. As he arrived, he was stopped by Gladys's brother Juan, who tried to convince him to leave. But Agustin told Juan he was invited and made his way inside the house. When the investigator initially asked Agustin to describe the shooting, he claimed he couldn't remember anything. However, after sitting and talking for a while, Agustin admitted to carrying the gun into the house, pointing it at Gladys and firing. The investigator asked Agustin why he shot Gladys, but he remained silent. The following day, Agustin was taken to court to hear the charges held against him and to give his plea. Agustin pled not guilty. The judge held him on a $5 million bail, and Agustin remained confined to the county jail until his trial. Because of the nature of the murder and the fact that Agustin was a local celebrity, the story received massive media coverage. It wasn't long before Agustin's face and crime became national news. This nationwide coverage provided a window of opportunity for the defense. Agustin's trial was scheduled for October 2, 2001, an entire 2 years away. Those 2 years gave his lawyers plenty of time to manipulate the media. Agustin's lawyers held press conferences, sharing Agustin's version of events, which they alleged was deliberately kept from the public.
Mr. Garcia impassioned in this case to see the person he loved in a wedding dress.
Many friends and co-workers of Agustin showed up at these conferences in support of him. During these press conferences, the defense attorneys stated Agustin reacted in self-defense after being attacked by Gladys's brother Juan and her son Davis. According to them, Agustin had no intention of murdering Gladys. The defense also tried to ruin Gladys's reputation, saying she was cheating on Agustin and James. They claimed Agustin thought he and Gladys were rekindling their relationship. He said that he had no idea she was planning to marry another man behind his back. At the moment he pulled the trigger, Agustin had an emotional breakdown caused by the shock of seeing Gladys in a wedding dress and the sudden attack by Davis and Juan. The defense attorneys claimed it was a crime of passion. In New Jersey, a death caused by a crime of passion is considered manslaughter, an unintentional killing, rather than a murder. Under these circumstances, the defendant would receive a greatly reduced sentence. In Agustin's case, he could end up serving only 5 or 10 years in prison instead of a life sentence. The public didn't know about Agustin's numerous affairs or his abusive actions towards Gladys. The people who knew Agustin saw him as a compassionate and caring man who put his heart and soul into the Hispanic community of New York City. When the community heard Gladys was cheating on him and James, their sympathy for her started to sway toward Agustin. Some even suggested Gladys got what she deserved. Gladys's family was mind-blown that Agustine's attorneys minimised her murder by claiming it was accidental. Through tears, Gladys's siblings Norma and Juan began attending every press conference held by Agustine's lawyers, proudly defending their sister's good name.
Everywhere they go, I go.
With the defence constantly airing the case to the public, the prosecution brought the problem up to the judge, who issued an order preventing the defence from continuing its media fiasco. But the damage was already done. With the entire community aware of the case and heavily influenced by Agustine's lawyers, the prosecution pushed hard to get their primary piece of evidence into the courtroom. Gladys's family longed for justice, and the only chance at getting it would be for the judge to allow the videotape of the murder to be viewed in the courtroom. A hearing to find out the answer to this question was scheduled for February 14, 2001, 8 months before the trial. On the day of the hearing, only the judge was allowed to watch the videotape, but anyone present in the courtroom could hear the horrifying audio from the murder. The audience, including members of Gladys's family, listened in quiet horror as they relived the most terrifying moment of their lives. The defence argued that seeing a bride shot in her wedding dress would give the prosecution an unfair advantage. In the end, the judge agreed that the footage could be used, but only on the segment of the shooting.
She was smeared as a result of things that some of Garcia's relatives said in the press.
Although a small victory for the family, the question remained, would the 15 seconds of footage be enough to convince the jury?
The Spanish community was so confused, thinking that she deserved that to get killed because she had 2 men. She was playing with his feelings.
On October 2nd, 2001, the trial of Agustine versus the state of New Jersey began. To convince the jury that it was a crime of passion, the defense had to prove 1. Agustine was in the heat of the moment, 2. He was adequately provoked, and 3. He acted without having the opportunity to calm down. They argued Agustine became overwhelmed with emotion when he saw Gladys dressed in a wedding gown. With no time to process what was before his eyes, the sudden attack by Juan and Davis caused him to reach for his gun to protect himself. At that moment, bullets flew, unintentionally hitting Gladys. Switching gears, the defense tried to take the focus off Agustine by convincing the jury that Gladys was a cheater, the same tactic used during their press conferences. The defense showed the jury a videotape from the local grocery store, Pathmark. In the tape, Gladys and Agustine are seen together hugging. The defense also placed one of Agustine's neighbors and his daughter Natika on the stand as eyewitnesses who claimed to see Agustine and Gladys together only days before the murder.
Went to the room, I went to look in the backyard and I heard them making love.
The neighbor said she thought that Gladys lived with Agustine because she saw her there more often than she saw him. The defense had succeeded in gaining the jury's sympathy for Agustine. They were left questioning Gladys's true character. However, the defense would soon realize that the prosecution had plenty of evidence of their own. They began by showing the jury the videotape of Gladys's murder. The jury was heartbroken and found it hard to watch the glowing bride get gunned down in front of her family and friends.
That was very hard to watch. Like I said, I can watch that sort of thing on TV all day because I know it's fake and it's blood, it's fake little explosions, it's all props. This was real.
After viewing the tape, the prosecution highlighted the multiple flaws in the defense's case. The defense argued that Agustine was attacked upon entering Gladys's home. However, it was clear in the video that no one had even touched him until after he began shooting. And every time he fired, he pointed the gun directly at Gladys. Not once did Agustine attempt to shoot at his attackers. The prosecution emphasized how Agustine intentionally brought a loaded gun into a house, endangering the lives of many men, women, and children. Not only did Agustine carry a loaded gun onto Gladys's property, but he also came equipped with extra bullets in case he ran out. The defense tried to argue that Agustine always carried a loaded weapon on him because he was a well-known businessman who had to have the gun for his own safety. The prosecution also tried to prove that Gladys was not a cheater. They provided evidence showing Agustine had stalked Gladys over the past few months. Police found a list of license plate numbers in Agustine's car. All of the vehicles had been parked near Gladys's home at one time or another. Agustin was trying to keep track of every person who entered her neighborhood. That's not something someone would do if they felt like they were in a healthy relationship. It was obvious Agustin was stalking Gladys. However, seeing them together at Pathmark didn't add up. The prosecution tried to prove that Gladys was pressured to hug Agustin.
What she did was she put her hand like this, like, oh my God. I mean, he was stalking her.
He followed her to the store, came up from behind her in the parking lot, and forced himself on her. Gladys, not wanting to make a scene, kept quiet. Without evidence to back up their story, this added no weight to their case. As the trial continued, Agustin made the unexpected decision to testify. This move played a significant role in the verdict. On October 16th, Agustin took the stand in his defense. The prosecution asked him to recount the events at Gladys's home and to explain why he fired his gun. Everyone expected him to repeat the same story his lawyers gave. He fell into a passionate rage, but he didn't do that. Instead, Agustin said he felt calm when he saw Gladys in her wedding dress. He stated he did react in self-defense against the sudden attack from Juan and Davis, but he blacked out and can't remember shooting his gun. Nothing Agustin said or displayed added up to a crime of passion. Agustin told a story that didn't support his defense at all. During his testimony, Agustin cried in front of the jurors, but no one was impressed. In the end, the jury found Agustin guilty.
On the charge of murder, what was the response of the jury?
Guilty of murder.
Is that unanimous?
Yes.
It was obvious to the jury that he had shown up at Gladys's house that afternoon with the intent of killing her. Even if she had cheated on him, it did not warrant her death.
I mean, we did feel a certain sympathy still, you know, still he planned to shoot her and he shot her. And you can't really, there's no getting away from that.
After 2 years of waiting, Gladys and her family finally received justice. On February the 1st, 2002, Agustin was sentenced to a life in prison with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Gladys was laid to rest in her hometown of Tamboril in the Dominican Republic a week after her death. She was buried in her wedding dress. But her story did not end there, nor on the day Agustin received his life sentence. A year after her death, Florida resident Josie Ashton put on her wedding dress and ran an entire marathon. After the race, she was asked why she was wearing a wedding dress.
To do some work to heal, the community, to educate the community, and to support the Ricart family during this time.
During the trial, several groups, along with Josie Ashton, came together to show their support for Gladys Ricart's family and spread awareness about domestic violence. The Dominican Women's Development Center, the Violence Intervention Program, the Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, the Dominican Women's Caucus, and the National Latino Alliance for the Elimination of Domestic Violence. Gladys's story not only touched her local community, but it spread throughout the nation, and the Bride's March continues to this day. Though Agustin received a life sentence and is paying for his crimes, that still doesn't solve the ongoing problem of domestic abuse. To this day, Gladys's niece continues to participate in the yearly Bride's March to fight against domestic violence. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, remember that help is available. Reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or a helpline in your area. You deserve safety, respect, and support. You are not alone.